like to introduce you to the idea of Pecha Kucha. This is a style of presenting that involves a set number of slides or images set to auto-run for a certain period of time each. So I'm actually doing a Pecha Kucha presentation right now to explain what Pecha Kucha is, because one of the reasons I would use this in class or for myself is just because a lot of other presentations I've ever seen have been pretty boring, and this is just a different way of doing it. Oftentimes it becomes more about the PowerPoint presentation itself. Students tend to worry about fonts and animations, and it just gets too busy, and you lose the overall message. And really the message is what it's supposed to be about. Originally, Pecha Kucha was introduced to me in 2009. I was at the ICE conference, the Illinois Computing Educators Conference, and Chris Lehman, who was the principal of the Science Leadership Academy in Philadelphia, presented this as a way of introducing your students to a new style of presentation that also made it more interesting for those watching and for the teacher who was watching it as well. It was created by a Tokyo-based architecture firm in 2003. They were sick and tired of what they called, quote, death by PowerPoint. The idea was to have people meet up, show work, and exchange ideas. And since 2004, this went viral and has gone through hundreds of cities. And they now hold Pecha Kucha nights, which are a little bit like an open mic night. The idea is to share your ideas openly with a group of people. By 2014, over 700 cities have had them. The topics range from business to how to milk a goat. And it is a trademark term, so other cities have names like Lightning Talk or Ignite or some other term that they're using. It comes from the Japanese phrase meaning chit-chat or chatter. A lot of people mispronounce it. I know every time I've mentioned it to somebody, they say, "What are you talking, Machu Picchu, Pikachu?" It's Pecha Kucha, even though you may hear other people pronounce it in other ways. The idea is that it's supposed to be more of a narrative than a business-type presentation. We're not presenting bullet points. We may have data, we may have information, but we want to see what story does that data tell, because that story oftentimes is more compelling and more interesting to us, and it will last longer than merely the facts. Pecha Kucha as a presentation style is 20 by 20, meaning 20 images shown for 20 seconds each, which comes out to 6 minutes and 40 seconds, which for a class, if you're doing presentations, that's a good amount of time if they've been doing some kind of research work, or if you just want to limit it to not having somebody go into this 20-minute book report or PowerPoint. It's all about minimalist design. It's the message that it's all about, so simple, high-impact images. A lot of people will say don't put any more than 10 words per slide. I would say even less, no more than 3 words per slide. It's really about the images complementing what you are saying out loud. There's really no animation, should be no bells and whistles to this. The less distractions, the better. The whole idea is not to have those distracting PowerPoint or Keynote slides, to really listen to what the person is saying, and that the pictures are more of a complement. So there's a couple of different ways you could do this in a class. You could give students a pre-made template, put it in Google Docs for them or something like that, have them create it themselves. Really, it's just creating a blank slide, set the transitions to automatic and the desired time, and then duplicate that number of slides. If you save it and upload it to Google Docs, then you can make that file publicly accessible to them and give students the link to the file. As I set up mine, I planned it out using a keyword list and storyboards. I found that storyboards as a graphic organizer force the students and myself to plan the words and images simultaneously, which really means it flows a lot better. Keywords can then be transferred to presenter notes, and then you can use those as your notes as you give your presentation. What I found for the images themselves is that if I did a Google image search using abstract nouns instead of being more specific, I found better complementary images that I could use. Students could even draw the images themselves and take a picture and load it up on Keynote or PowerPoint and use that. I use and have my students use an iPad as the remote for the presenter. It has the presenter notes built right into it. So that they have an image of the slide, they know roughly how much time they've got going, and they have just a real quick presenter notes that they can follow along with. Because this is timed, because each slide is 20 seconds each unless you adapt it, practice is really important. You want to make sure it sounds like you're having a conversation. You're not reading. And it may vary each time, and that's okay. So if your presentation is different every time you give it, that's totally fine. That's part of the point of this, that it's more conversational and less like a business presentation. In terms of a rubric for assessment as a teacher, I would use more of a narrative writing rubric as a starting point. Take that because the narrative is what's important. I would devote very little of the grading to the technical side of this because it really is just, did it fit within the time constraints? The constraints are so that the topic, the subject, becomes more prevalent than the actual bits and pieces of the PowerPoint file itself. It can be adapted. It's not set in stone at all. It can be adapted to a quick formative assessment or exit slip. If you want to do 3 slides, 10 seconds each, just a quick check-in on what they're learning, that's totally fine as well. Another idea is to teach with Pecha Kucha. Get your direct instruction distilled down to the essentials. It forces you to think about your delivery. I know that when I would teach students, there's a lot of times where I would go off on a tangent and tell a joke, and sometimes that's great, but sometimes it would take a little bit of class time, and I would be wasting some time that could have been used more effectively. Definitely, if you're thinking of flipping your classroom, it's perfect for that. Record your Pecha Kucha for your flipped classroom videos so students can do repeat viewings. A lot of times they say 1 minute per grade level is good, and if I was still teaching at the 7th grade level, a 6-minute and 40-second video would be perfect for 7th grade students. So you can adjust that as needed. The whole idea, Pecha Kucha changed my view and injected new life into presentations and helped me avoid death by PowerPoint. It just made it more interesting and made it more fun. So I encourage you to try it.